Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This episode, we're talking music. We're just not talking about an album of the week. We have a special guest that we would like to introduce to you and ask a few questions about a paper she has written. She is a recent graduate of the University of Purdue, Fort Wayne School of Music program. In her class, The Psychology of Music, she had written a paper on why live music is desired. As you know, Matt and I, specifically Matt, are huge into live music. Going to see the shows brings a lot of entertainment. Lady D is also a professional drummer in and around the Fort Wayne area. She's played with several bands, has been recorded on a couple of albums, and is still drumming in the area with a local band that we'll get into in a little bit. We're pleased and honored to introduce to you today Lady D. Matt, I'm going to flip it over to you for all the formal introductions so that we can get into the question and answer time. So with that being said, let's roll.
Well, yeah, we've got a professional drummer in the house, and it just happens to be Lady D, my daughter. You've heard her name several times on other episodes, but man, we reeled her into the studio today to do a quick recording, and I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a paper that Delaney wrote for one of her senior projects, and uh, uh, tell us a little bit about studying music at Purdue. What was it like?
It was amazing. The classes were very informative. I got to study music theory, how to learn how to play drum set, how to learn how to play in a band, how to learn how to record. And one of the classes I took, one of my last 2 semesters, was called the Psychology of Music, or Music Psychology. And in that class, we got to write our own final paper on any topic that we would like. So I wanted to dig in and really study the effects of live music and how it affects the listener, how it affects the performer, and how it's sort of different than recorded music, right? So you guys are intaking a lot of recorded music and listening over YouTube and listening to like Apple Music and stuff like that. But you've also been to live shows, and you can kind of, there's a little bit of a difference there. And in this paper, I study that, and I use different sources. I think I used like 9 different sources.
Well, while she's looking at that, you guys have heard me say before that if I get my choice to listen to even a live recording of jazz music or a studio recording, I'm always kind of going to lean towards that live recording anyways, because those musicians have to be on point 100% of the time during that live recording, even if it's, again, just a recording. Now, you being a professional drummer, let me ask you this: what's it like for you at the start of a gig? Do you get nervous? Do you get anxious at all, or is it just become so second nature to you that you just walk out and do your thing?
I would say when I started, I would get that pre-show anxiety. It would feel like I'd almost have to pee a little bit because I'm so excited that I'm like, oh crap, we're about to go on stage, or we're about to play a really cool show. So after doing hundreds, close to 1,000 shows, that anxiety sort of, excitement's still there, but the anxiety goes away a little bit of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess up, or I'm gonna do bad, or something's gonna go wrong. And instead it goes towards more of a, this is exciting. I'm about to play a really cool show, or I'm about to play for, people. Sometimes there's not even a lot of people. So like last weekend, it's getting closer to bonfire season now. So people want to be outside and be having bonfires. So there wasn't a lot of people there, and it was at a bar that I've never been to. So that my anxiety now is more of like, am I going to drop a stick, or is something going to break? Because my stuff is being lugged around all the time now, and it's not really, it's a different sort of anxiety. So a lot of the anxiety for me comes if there's a lot of people at the shows. So like when I did play a fellowship, sometimes on those bigger services that we had for the more like Easter and Christmas type of traditions, there would be a lot of people there, like closer to 1,000 per
Service.
service. So it was that excitement of like, wow, there's a lot of people here watching me, and I'm sort of, scared, but it's kind of dwindled down. It just depends.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great answer. And I think I always wonder about the musician side, but again, the fan side of it sometimes can be similar too. You walk into, say, for instance, fellowship, and you're anticipating the music, and you're anticipating um, how it's going to move you or whatever, and you go to a live concert, and sometimes it can feel that way too. Your excitement level is, yes, you're there to see a band or your favorite band, but in the back of your mind you think, oh man, what if they, what if they have a problem, what if the power goes out and they have to stand there for 10 minutes waiting for the power, at least in the back of my mind.
Yes.
So the paper that you wrote is why live music is desired. And in the first page, on the first page, I'm just going to go through some of the things that I highlighted on the paper, and we can discuss that. But on the first page, it's one of the things that I highlighted was that cost does not influence the decision to attend concerts. Now, I find that somewhat true, but I feel bitter about how much concert ticket prices have increased, and it's not always the artist that reaps the benefit of the increased prices. So I do like that statement in your paper that I'm not sure I'd spend $500 on a concert ticket, but I'd spend $100 on a concert ticket.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that too. But in the studies that I was doing for the costs, we see that, there is tickets out there that cost thousands of dollars, and it's for big named artists like Taylor Swift.
Mhm.
So there is people spending
Yes.
that much money. It's kind of dependent on the person. There's a limit, for me. I love Need to Breathe, so I'm repping my Need to Breathe today, but I wouldn't pay more than $100 to go see them.
Right.
That's my personal limit. And it's different for
So
everybody.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that the average ticket price in the U.S. for 2023 was $130, and that was up from $78 in 2015. Now, globally, we're talking internationally, the ticket prices in 2019 were $96. So there's been a spike or a slight increase in some of the ticket prices. But I know that I just heard something this morning on the news that may be changing into the future.
Yep. And that's because of the Ticketmaster cases that are going on right now. So they're actually under lawsuit right now for, this increase of price, because they are just the conglomerate, like they're a one entity that can determine all the prices. So they're going to try to break them up and make them into different entities. That way there's actual competition. But from what I studied, over a year ago for my paper, was that even though tickets are increasing, there is so much desire to go to live shows that people will almost just negate the fact that it's so much and find a way somehow to get the money to go to shows, which is really cool. And it's an emotional, psychological like effect that's actually happening to, I need to go see this artist, or there's really cool marketing out there that makes it seem like this is something you can't miss, like you have to go to the show. And I talk about that a lot in my paper.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you talk about go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's not just the musician that puts on the show. It's the sound, it's the marketing, it's the stage production, it's the location even. Who doesn't want to sit outside and see some beautiful music versus inside of a smoky bar? So you talk on that too.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, back later in a few later pages, you cover that.
Yes.
Whereas the lighting of a show and the video that's playing during the band, when they're playing their songs, it all has an impact on how well you enjoy the show. And I will say, in my own personal experience, seeing Need to Breathe multiple times, one of the last times, not the last time, but the time before that, we were sitting out in the yard in the grass, and we were on the backside of the hill. Now we could still hear the music just fine, but we couldn't see the band, and it did hinder our enjoyment level a little bit of the whole concert, because when we walked up to the center where everyone was, and we experienced the excitement and the energy of seeing the band and seeing the backdrop and seeing the lighting and everything. Yeah, my enjoyment level rose for sure
Yeah,
during that
so
time. Yeah.
that's a term called musicking, which I talk about later in my paper towards that back end of it, where everyone that's a part of the live music experience takes part in it. So even the audience members, sitting in the audience, the people that are doing the sound and the lighting, the people that are ushering or like getting people to their seats, like everybody takes part in the performance. There's actually a really cool, I don't know if I'd call it a song because it's not music, but I think it's called 3 minutes 42 seconds. I really wish I would know the actual name of it. But basically, a piano player sits down at the piano for a performance, performs this piece, but doesn't hit a key on the keyboard.
And now, a performance of John Cage's 433. Please welcome our soloist, William Marks.
And it's to show that everything that's going on around the performer and in the venue, you're all taking part in it. So an audience member coughing 1 minute into him just sitting there and not doing anything, or the shuffling or moving around in your seats, like that is showing that we're all taking part in it. So it's a term called musicking, and that's something that I studied at PFW.
Yeah, I highlighted that on that page. Whereas the main value of live music is the experience and sharing the experience with others.
Yeah.
Now, Drew, you and I got the chance to go see Need to Breathe while you were home this year. And even though, let me ask you this, even though you didn't know many Need to Breathe songs, what was the experience like for you to be there?
Oh man, I had a blast there, listening to Need to Breathe and spending the time. First of all, just hanging out with you and Kendra there. It was really an amazing time. So to me, it was an experience. Of course, it was interesting show because of the location, the time, the place. I mean, we were back at home together. And so to me, it was a complete experience. The music, I didn't recognize that, which a lot of people did. I mean, everybody around me was singing along and bobbing heads, which is a huge part of a concert. But for me, most part, I really didn't know the tunes, but I was still pretty excited because there were a few that I did know.
My partner in crime, Kendra, her and I are live music lovers, and we go. I wouldn't say to a lot of concerts, um, but we go and support the artists that we like, and go try and go to their shows as much as we can. Now, it's hard for us to sit still at a Need to Breathe concert, and we get up and we're moving, and sometimes her and I will move together based on the song. If the song says, "Hey, we're soaring up to the sky," her and I will have our hand movements that we kind of do together, and it's just the overall excitement of being there with other people. Sometimes overtakes it, and we like to move around and stuff. And Bob, but you did mention in your paper about the audience bobbing their head, and that being a whole social experience
Yeah.
with everyone.
Yeah, it is. I was going back to familiarity. I know it's also skipped back down to the end of the conversation here, but the concept of do you play the same song the same way live as you do on the record? And I know that you have been recorded and you have had the opportunity to listen to your music on the radio. So tell me about that and then tell me the answer to that question. What's the recommended way?
So it kind of depends on a lot of things, but I played on I'm just gonna shout out what I'm doing currently. Because I have been played on the radio, but we didn't play together live. We only recorded. But I recorded on two of Maddie McCoy's singles that are coming out, and she's about to release an EP. She's one of my friends that is about to graduate from PFW. We met there and we've been super close since. So on the album, I played drum set, I played bongos, shaker, tambourine. Like I added in a bunch of stuff. But because I can't play all those things at once, it's kind of hard to add all of that into a live show without other members. So because we're doing this stripped down version, I'm having to use all my different limbs, one or two to play cajon, and then I'm using my feet to do like a bass drum cajon or a tambourine, and then I'm picking up shaker in between. So it's a lot different than what you're going to hear on the album when that comes out. But I think as a way to like introduce it, because that's what this type of show is like, hey, here's my music in a different version than kind of what you're going to hear it on the album. But to promote her album is a really cool way to kind of get people out, get people listening, and get them excited for what they're going to hear. That's sort of different than what you would hear as like going to see Need to Breathe. I'm just going to keep repping Need to Breathe because I love them. But if you go to see them, you've already pretty much heard their music unless they're playing one or two new songs at a live show, and you kind of know what to expect. In a sense, you want to hear them play it as they recorded it because you know it that way. But in another sense, is something really cool that they love to do is change it up a lot, and I love that because they can make it sound different or like blend it into another song and kind of change it up to where it wasn't expected. And so that unpredictability is really, really cool in that sense because it's like, oh crap, wait, I know this song. After they just got done playing another song, they're like blending it into another one. Or they like play it at a slower tempo or play it more stripped back. So that's why everybody loves going to their acoustic shows, is because they're playing the songs a little bit differently and a little less, it's more intimate, you know, and you want to see that change.
So one of my favorite concert experiences, one of the things that sticks out in my mind more than anything, again, Kendra and I are big Hootie and the Blowfish fans, and we've seen them, I don't know, 20 times maybe, but one of the times that we saw them, they changed, they played one of their big hits in reggae style. They didn't do it normally. They switched the style completely. Same notes, same lyrics, that just completely just changed it. I'll never forget how creative I thought that was, because you hear it, you hear it on the radio, you listen to it on your own, you go see the live shows, you hear it again, and it almost becomes
mundane
almost.
You're just hearing it the same exact way every single time. You want to hear a little bit of change or a tempo difference or a different rhythmic element brought into it to where, oh, I didn't think about that. That's cool. And that unpredictability is really, really where I was kind of getting at in my paper about, like, yes, people want to bob their head to a song they know and the hits and stuff, but then also that cool unpredictability aspect where, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or something like that.
Yeah. Drew, what else you got?
Going on to that, I guess I'm just going to fire off the questions here on my end. The psychological effects that it has, I think on page 3 and then 4, it talks about that, being able to predict what's coming and the psychological impacts it has connecting with others. And I think it's on page 7. And again, we'll put this up here so that somebody can read it. In page 7, it talks about the experience and how you can grow together with people like that. Alternatively, adults that moved together in synchronized movements showed greater levels of trust, expressed liking each other more, and remembered more about each other. The funny part to me about those words there is I'm thinking in terms of the old concerts from a jazz world. If I'm sitting there in 1967 listening to John Handy, or 66 or 67 listening to Charles Lloyd, I'm dancing and grooving with people. I have the opportunity to maybe share a dance with people there in the audience, but I'm shaking my booty with them. I'm engaged in this process, and it builds a community of like-minded people. And I think that's the term, is community, and it does really translate into your paper as far as building friendships, remembering each other, liking each other, but you're more than likely to dance with somebody with music that you like and appreciate. Or
Yes.
we did in front of Need to Breathe at the county fair, the people standing in front of us. I was about to dance with them, the complete strangers, just so that I was out of the seat and able to dance. So
Yeah.
I guess my question about that was more of a statement. Do you still believe in what you wrote a little over a year ago?
I do, 100%. And that is a great question, actually. If I could share an experience really quick, I'll just say I've been to many, many shows. I've played many, many shows, and the dance groove aspect is what people grasp onto. So I went to a show not too long ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago at the new Pearl Arts and Education Center, where I currently work at now, and it was their grand opening, and they had a hip hop orchestra there, and it was super, super cool. But everyone was sitting down, and it was more of like something that you experience sitting down and not really dancing to. And I sort of felt like I couldn't feel what everybody else was feeling or felt connected to. So afterward, I asked Grace, who I went with, what did you like it? Because I couldn't tell, like, when we were just sitting down. But then we went to a Lake Street Dive concert, and that's a very different experience. So we went to 2 different concerts together. The Lake Street Dive concert, we were up and dancing and moving and grooving to all the songs and having fun with each other. So I sort of already knew how she felt about it, and I didn't have to ask, oh, did you have fun? Did you like it, sort of thing? Because I couldn't tell if she liked it from the hip hop orchestra concert because we weren't engaging with each other during it. So I would say, like, in Gunslinger and the band I play in, we try as hard as we can to get everybody up and dancing, because that's when people are going to be having fun. That's when people are going to want to buy drinks and stay and have fun with each other, because ultimately that's what we're there for, is to entertain people and to get them to dance and move and groove with each other because of that connection that they're feeling, right? So if you're dancing with somebody else and it's super duper fun and it's a good groove and it's a good song, you're going to feel good, like it's just a super fun experience. And that's kind of where I'm getting at in my paper.
I've seen Gunslinger multiple times, and I will say that you guys are very I don't want to use the word rigid in a bad way, but you're pretty rigid in this, and you play the song the same way again and again and again and again, which is okay, because again, that's what they want to hear. That's what they can dance to. And then, yeah, if you throw in a reggae version of, I Want to Hold Your Hand, they're not gonna know kind of what's going on and what to do. It's not really your style.
Yeah.
So
with Gunslinger, we don't play with a click, which is really, really cool. So we may be changing the tempo from gig to gig, maybe 5 BPM, not even. But our tempos are pretty consistent and close. And that's something we talk about a lot too.
It's because they have an awesome drummer.
Right?
Everybody contributes though. Like, sometimes I don't even start the song. So Ryan, he'll just start playing and I'll go along with it. And if it's not the right tempo, I'll let him know. But we're all so good with the tempo aspect of it, that we pretty much stay on tempo. But yeah, sometimes, we're human. We mess up. That happens. And people don't stop coming to our shows because we messed up that one single section in the song. And no, we get past it, we move on, and people like us because we play dance music, and that's why they keep coming back, is because they want to engage in that dance music, and they want to drink and be merry and have fun. So, but yeah, we are pretty rigid with how we do things, and we play it the exact same way pretty much every time. We go intro, verse, chorus, bridge, outro. So we do it the same form, but it might be deviated a little bit with tempo because we don't play to a click, which is cool. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to ask, do you ever vary that depending on the audience? I know that your paper talks about the audience engagement and that's what a live concert is, feeding off of the crowd. Do y'all ever find that you spend more time doing different style of beats, or as a drummer, do you include more bass or more cowbell per se when you've got a group of people really getting their wiggles out to a particular drum beat?
Yeah, sometimes I'll throw in like a halftime, or I'll double time it if it's not feeling like people are getting into it, then I'll kind of amp it up with a double time, it's the same tempo. I'm just doubling the snare basically, or I'll cut it in half and I'll do a halftime to kind of change it up a little bit. One, because I'm playing it the same way every time, so it gets kind of boring, and two, yeah, people that come to shows often, like our real fans that like to come and watch us, they probably get bored of it too, I would imagine. So yeah, we're working on throwing in some new songs here. So in a short time, hopefully we can have a couple new songs thrown in there.
Good. So let me transition onto page 7, and this is one of the things that I highlighted on page 7. They found 4 main reasons for live music attendance. One was the experience, is what we were just talking about. You come to see the band, you come to hear the songs. That's the whole experience of it. The engagement. So you could possibly buy a backstage pass or a meet and greet ticket. So the engagement with the band, the novelty, and then the practicality. So let's unpack the novelty aspect. I mean, you go to a show, you see the band, you buy the t-shirt, you buy the sweatshirt, you buy the bumper sticker. Is that the kind of novelty that maybe you were referring to? Is just or is it the novelty of, oh well, we've seen them 10 times now, why not go see them 11? What's the novelty aspect of the paper?
I think the novelty is, like you said, the buying of the merch, feeling like you have a part of it because you have a t-shirt. Like I get to go out in the wild and rep Need to Breathe or Katie Pruitt or Lake Street Dive, and that's really cool and something you can hold on to because everybody wants to still hold on to that experience that they had when they were there, right? Another thing too is like, I'm not gonna go. So say I'm trying to think of, if you go to a Taylor Swift concert, and it's really hard to get tickets now because she just sells out so fast because everybody wants to go. You're not going to leave there without a t-shirt, right? Like you have to have a memory of that. You have to have, she's a novelty because one, it's hard to get in. So when you do get a ticket, it seems like crazy that you're even there. And so the merch is a novelty, but also the artist, right? So going to see these big name artists that maybe don't come around as often, or like, I'm pretty sure Buddy Guy came, and he's like a really popular blues artist who doesn't really tour much anymore. So it's kind of like, well, crap, this might be his last tour. I have to go see him, that aspect as well is kind of the novelty that I was referring to there.
That's great, because I was going to transition to that as well. On page 8, you mentioned that the superstars, especially in recent years, it may be the last time that they're performing, or they're performing with someone other than their regular bandmates, and it could be a once in a lifetime concert experience. And so I know for me, I'm going to jump on a concert next April and I'm super excited about it. It's a jazz artist, and he's playing with two other jazz musicians. And I'm not necessarily thinking it may be a once in a lifetime, but who knows? It may be a once in a lifetime opportunity to go see that artist play with the other two musicians. So I really like that aspect of the paper where you put that almost what's the word I'm looking for, the excitement, of, oh my, this may only come around, that's the only time this year I get to see him.
Yeah.
So I better go to this show. And again, Taylor Swift, yeah, you're lucky enough to get tickets, and so you think, man, I'm one of the 20,000 lucky ones that gets to go see her. So it's really super exciting.
I guess the question that I would have is really more about this. Past, present, or future, what live concert would y'all like to attend?
I've thought about this a lot because people have asked me this question. Michael Jackson, by far. He is the biggest pop name and will always be the biggest pop name. And when he released songs, they were all hits. Like, you could not go to his concert and not dance. And I'm so sad that I was born in the wrong generation to not go see that. Another one, which would be a close second, is Earth, Wind, and Fire, just because I really like that band. And I mean, they're amazing. They are so solid and tight, and I would love to see like a big band like that. So that's my two, like my top two. What about
Okay,
you?
so I would have to ask some leading questions about, do I only get one concert, or is it one per genre that I like?
No,
Because
we're not gonna do that. You and I talked about that maybe on the show or on our phone call once. And it was like, you only have one. No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the one that I'm upset about, well, I'm actually upset about missing two, but U2, they came back with the Joshua Tree tour. What was 25 years later, and that was all they played at the concert was the Joshua Tree album. They may have thrown songs either later or prior to, but I'm really jealous that I didn't go see U2 for the Joshua Tree tour 2.0. The other one that I'm really upset or sad that I missed, and I never got to see Van Halen live. Van Halen's one of my all-time favorite rock bands, and I never got the chance to see them live. Now, I did get a chance to see another one of my favorite rock band live with you, Drew, long time ago, Rush and Roll the Bones tour. But I missed out on Van Halen, and I missed out on U2. So those would be my two picks. What about you?
Well, I think it's interesting because you get to a place where you think about the people, the places, the times, everybody that you've missed out on. And I'm thinking that, Rush would have been one of those. Just with the passing of the members, you start really considering what should I have. I did get to see BB King, and that was pretty big highlight to me. That was a really cool one. I think one of the concerts that I would most want to go back to, if I had a chance to, I'd want to go see Stevie Ray Vaughan play live. Plain and simple. I think that would have been a killer opportunity and a killer show.
Wow. Yeah.
We've got so much great music, and we talk about concerts all the time. What would it have been like to have been there? I have a hard time because I could probably pick one from every genre, from every decade. Seeing Steve Miller would have been pretty fun. Seeing whoever it would have been. I mean, think about all the blues guys from the past. Even what would it have been like to see Miles in '71 with Keith Jarrett playing? What would it have been like to see Wayne Shorter? What would it have been like to see one of them at the Plug Nickel? So it'd be tough. It would be, I would say, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay, that's a great, hey, nothing wrong with that.
His hands are like this big.
Yeah.
Did you have you ever seen a picture of his hands? You have to look up pictures because they are massive. Like, he can, the amount he can spread on the fretboard
It's crazy.
is insane.
Well,
like, he has like
he was able to play rhythm and lead at the same time with those big meat hooks. So,
well,
tell me about all the bands you've played with, and tell me a little bit about your gig as an instructor at the Pearl Arts Academy in Fort Wayne.
Oh, geez. Okay. All the bands I've played in, I don't know if I can remember all of them. I guess my first like rock band was in high school, and we were called Firebird. And I remember the most notable show that we did was at the three no arts. What's it
It
called?
was Three Rivers Festival, right? Art in the Park.
Art and no, it
No?
was the one like downtown every year in
Mhm.
August. That's not the Three Rivers. That's the what is that called?
Yeah, I forget.
It was
Well, we-
it was really memorable. I just forgot.
I
So-
remember the meeting of like the people. So we were playing on this stage, which wasn't really even a stage. I'm pretty sure we were just on concrete, and there was, chairs set up under a tent, and our family was there. Cool. We start setting up, we start playing, whatever. And we're a high school band. So most of us are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And I'm a senior, so I'm about to graduate high school. Or no, that wasn't senior year. I'm sorry. That was junior year for me, because senior year was COVID. So that was junior year for me. And yeah, we had like freshmen and sophomores in this band in high school. We start playing, and everybody starts crowding around the tent.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
You were there. You and Mom were there.
Yeah.
But literally everybody stops and is like, who are these kids? And we're playing like Kansas, Carry On Your Wayward Son, and just some really cool notable stuff. And as high schoolers, that was really, really cool to just see all these people start crowding around. So I was in Firebird, and then I was in Pavey and Company in college, which has been one of my greatest experiences, honestly. Our last show, we played in front of almost 5,000 people, which was pretty
Nice.
crazy. We opened for a Bob Seger tribute band, which was super, super fun. And that was like a blues rock band. And then
Noah Pavey rules, by the way. You put her with Noah Pavey, and I don't care what kind of music they play. They could play chamber music, and I would be in love.
yeah, I was
Band
just
boy.
back to some
I'm a Noah
videos.
Pavey fanboy for sure.
Yeah, I was just listening back to some videos, like just some voice memos that we took of practices and stuff, and I was like, that was us? That's crazy. Like that was a super fun time. I enjoyed that. And then after that, I was in VO for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, I think. And that was a country rock band, which was super, super fun. I got to record on her album, which is out now. It's called Reflections. And I'm on about 4 or 5 of the songs on there. I'd have to look at the album and look at the names and stuff. But that was super fun. We got to play for like a Live at Lunch at Sweetwater and a couple other gigs. And then the opportunity to join Gunslinger arose, and I just couldn't pass it. Like it was so weird how it happened. So I'm working at Sweetwater full time. There's this little site we have. It's called the intranet, and we can go on there and look at this page that has just like, you can list stuff for sale, you can list opportunities, you can hey, go listen to my new song or whatever. And the drummer of the band posted, hey, I'm gonna have to leave the band, and we're gonna need a full-time drummer. And I wasn't really doing anything at the time. Stuff with VO was kind of slow, and I just was wanting more. So I talked to the drummer, and he was like, here's what we do. We gig about every weekend. Here's our schedule. And I started looking at his calendar when he was showing me, and I was like, that's 2 gigs a weekend, every single weekend, like nonstop. Holy crap. Am I ready for that? Like that was a shock. And honestly, it hasn't been that bad. Like it's been pretty easy. I just keep my equipment in the car, and
Well, you go from a schedule of 1 gig every month or one gig
not
every other
even,
month,
yeah.
and to a full-time steady schedule, because this band is way more established than any band that you've been in. So you've got a full schedule of music now. So,
yeah. We're playing at bars. We play for we've played for events in Napanee, Indiana. We play We play for a lot of different things. They used to like open for bands when big bands would come to town, like Fort Wayne and Columbia City. So like I'm pretty sure they've opened for everybody, like Tracy Bird. A lot of I'll have to ask Brian exactly what all the artists were, but he was like the main opener act for when big name acts would come to Fort Wayne. And there was just not really that much money in it, to be honest. So we've just switched over to like bars and events and private parties. So the private parties are really fun because people enjoy it, and we get to kind of do whatever they want. So it's not really an audience per se. It's more of just like, whoa, we're playing for some friends that we know, some people that always constantly come to our gigs, and then they're like, hey, we want to hire you for a birthday party or something. So it's been super fun with Gunslinger, very busy. But I mean, it's a professional band. Like, we're doing the thing for money, which is not something I'm used to. So it's very, very fun.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the Pearl Arts Academy. Drew and I have covered it on an episode just briefly, because I told the story of going to see a performance there, and I briefly explained that you worked there. So tell us a little bit about your role at Pearl Arts.
I am a contracted teacher to teach drums and percussion at Pearl Arts. You can go to their website and find out more info if you're interested in getting lessons of any sorts. But it's really different than anything we have in Fort Wayne because of the aspect that kids from, all walks of life and any grade K through 12 really can get lessons. I don't want to say for free, but they're scholarship based. So if you do not have
the funds
to really go to like the Sweetwater Academy or go to a private instructor that may be $30 for 30 minutes, if that's not something that's feasible for a family, they can apply for a scholarship at Pearl Arts. And it's super cool to see these kids that might not be able to do after school activities to be able to come to this sort of almost prestigious place and feel a part of it. And that's really our mission, is to just make the kids feel like you're meant to be here. Like you are doing the hard work and you're in this is your community, like you're building it. And it's really super cool to see that. So I have about 12 students right now. So 30 minutes per lesson, that's about, 6 hours of work per week. So I'm trying to build my clientele and get more students. But yeah, we just learn technique of drums, how to hold drumsticks. We're doing, like, I have some younger kids. So I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. They don't really want to get into how to read music yet or how to hold drumsticks the specific way. So I've been doing body percussion with them and how to play like on your chest and on your thighs and stuff like that. It's cool to like find different ways to teach to younger kids versus the older kids who are maybe in middle school or high school. So I have kids ranging from ages 5 to 17 actually I had a 17-year-old this week for my first lesson with her. She goes to Northside. So it's super cool to just be able to teach all different kinds of kids from all different kinds of schools in the area. We really want to start reaching out to like homeschool kids to be able to come and do it as a class or something that they can get in their curriculum to like do music with others. Cause that's maybe not something that they would get to do. In public education it is, because you can sign up for a band class, or do marching band or jazz band or whatever. But if you're homeschooled, that's not maybe something that you would study. So we really want to reach out to those kids, and it's super fun there. It's so nice when you walk into the building. It's just like all natural lighting. They have these really awesome like paintings up that it's just really colorful in there. And it's really fun because we are paving the way for this amazing opportunity to just keep growing and growing and growing. And it's right downtown. It's right by the Bradley, downtown Fort Wayne. So it's really cool.
So Uncle Drew and I mention on the episodes all the time about influences. Who influenced this artist? What were some of his influences? And we've come to find that early childhood development in music are some of the biggest influences. Does that put any pressure on you as as a drum instructor at the Pearl, thinking, I know this kid's only 5 years old, but man, if I can have just a little bit of impact on him, he could turn out to be a superstar. Does that have any effect on you at all while you're
Yeah.
teaching?
Yeah, I think about it like almost all the time
Yeah.
because I do want to help these kids out, and not only that, but make a connection with them. So like I have connections with all of my old private instructors. Like I feel like I could text or call Kent or Kevin and just ask them questions or talk to them, which is super cool to have that sort of connection in the area. Um, and I just really want these students to feel like, man, I am part of something big and I'm meant to be here. Like that's my whole thing. Okay, if you learn how to hold drumsticks and rhythm, cool, whatever. But if you feel like you're part of something, that's even bigger, you know? Yeah. And I just want them to do their best, really.
Matt, I honestly thought you were going to go somewhere else with that question. Who are your influences, Delaney?
I have a lot. Which genre?
Name a few. Just name a few.
Neil
of your,
Peart.
yeah.
From Rush.
Well, what okay.
Well, no, what?
I was thinking direct influences. People who you want to emulate's one thing, or people who have you been taught by somebody who has played a major influence. Like my mother didn't teach us, but inspired us to do music. So Rhoda Gershmel would have been one of those.
Yeah.
Judy Martin, hands-on. So
Yeah.
who inspires you, or inspired you in high
right
school?
next to me. So
Nice.
yeah, my biggest inspiration is right here, and his name's Matt. I just remember he would be playing guitar and piano around the house. He'd always be whistling or singing, and he still does it, but I remember like I would be interested in like playing guitar, or when he would play it around the house, I would want to sit down and be by him when he was doing it. And not only that, but his 8 years of being in the Army playing trumpet has been one of my biggest inspirations. And I always talk about that. I've always written about that in my papers and whatever. It's just really cool to have like that musical background in my family, where maybe some other students that I have, their parents might not be musically influenced or might not even listen to the same types of music. But I mean, you've influenced all my types of music that I listen to. Like Rush and Van Halen are some of my favorite rock artists, progressive rock and rock artists. But like jazz too, I don't ever think I would have gotten into jazz band or done jazz band if I hadn't like heard jazz music or like listened to it around the house. So yeah.
Well, and not to mention the fact that I Need to Breathe is one of your favorite band. Well, it's one of your favorite bands, and I'm not taking credit for that just because they're an amazing band.
No, you can. You showed me them.
You would have found them one way or the other. But well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that makes me feel pretty good to know that I was an influence. What about some of your other musical influences, though? You mentioned Mr. Klee, Kevin Klee.
Yeah. Well, also Grandma too.
Oh, great. Okay.
We don't want to skip over Grandma.
Okay.
So she would always play piano, and there was always some musical outlet I could have around the house. That's all I want to say about that. But as far as like musical influences go, I mean, having Mr. Klee, like both of them. So I had Kevin in high school and I had Kent as my private instructor in college. Was life-changing. I don't think I would appreciate jazz as much as I do if it weren't for Kevin, because he is a proponent of jazz in the area. He's obsessed with jazz music. He knows everything there is to know about jazz music. So it was really cool to study under him in high school and jazz band, because he knew a lot and he knew the style. He knew how it should sound. He knew how I should play. And then Kent too has influenced my professional drumming in many, many ways. When we would sit in lessons, our lessons were 50 minutes to an hour, depended, but we wouldn't just talk about drumming. So we wouldn't just talk about the logistical things and the sticking and the technique. We would talk about the industry. So I would ask him, he was there to answer questions about the industry because he has played in the industry. And it was super cool to just looking back on that, I was like, during it, I was like, maybe we should work on my solo for my final grade. He knew I was one of his top students, and he didn't have to worry about me. He always said that I'm not worried about it. Like, you're gonna practice on your own and it'll be fine. And I'm still gonna give you an A+. So, but we got to talk, gigs, where he gigged at, how to network, how to talk to people. He showed me a really cool trick that I'm still practicing, but it's like when you're watching a drummer live, if I'm just sitting here like this, it's boring. You got to have that presence, that on stage sort of look and act. So he taught me a cool like left hand trick when I'm playing. Ow. I just used it too well. But to like raise your elbow when you're hitting the snare drum, like that's one of the main things I remember that isn't really even, I mean, it's technique related, but it's more of like a
Showmanship.
live showmanship aspect that he wouldn't have taught some of his younger students. But because we just talked about all this random stuff, he would ask me about my gigs. Like one of the first things he would ask in a lesson was, how's your gigs going? What are you doing? Are you recording? How's your school going? How's your projects? Like I try to implement that in every lesson now, like asking, how's your daily life going? Because if your daily life is not well, you are not going to be able to succeed in lessons, like period.
Well, and Matt and I talk a lot about that on our channel. Our week of listening to music is impacted by the week. We've had a crappy week. Imagine what kind of music we're listening to. It could shake or form a different thing. And so, yeah, I appreciate you asking your students what's been going on in their world, because it does impact how they're going to practice, how they're going to play for you, how they're going to learn for the week.
Or how the lesson is going to go. I mean, if you get a kid in there and he says, oh, my dog passed away this week, you'd be a little more empathetic knowing, oh, well, you didn't get a chance to practice then. So let's just sit here and chit chat for 15 minutes and work it out.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what Kent did. Like, I
so
honestly
cool.
swear, like my last semester, we probably played, I hate to say this, but like 10% of the time, just because I was practicing on my own and he knew I would put the work in. And if I had something to work on, I would bring it to him. So.
Oh, trust me. I know that you practice all the time.
Yeah, sorry about that one.
Yeah, it still does. Matt, I find it funny because you had always said that too. I'm sure you guys got tired of listening to me play the scales over and over and over again, or my long tones, or my lip slurs. So yeah, I know what practice looks like, and I know that she had practiced a lot. Still does.
Yes, she still does. She still does.
Is there any?
Yeah, go ahead.
Any closing thoughts?
I was just going to say, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you for being here. It's such an honor for you to sit down with us and take your time. I know I had to pay you with lunch, but it was well worth it. For answering our questions, for coming on to the episode with us. I can't wait for it to come out and see what kind of feedback we get. So
yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Producer Drew, tell them where else they can find us.
Well, as usual, you can always find us on our website, theunconnoisseur.com. We'll also put a link on the website to Delaney's paper so that you can read it for yourselves. Any questions or comments that you have about that, you can drop us an email, theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. Matt's killing it out on TikTok at The Unconnoisseur. And of course, you've followed us at The Unconnoisseur on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on the podcasts as well. So that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Well,
Until
thanks.
next time.
Until next time.